Thanks very much, Linda, and good morning, everyone. What an honor to be here on unceded Algonquin territory. Not only an honor, but how fitting that we gather here on Algonquin territory to speak up about rights. Our rights, the rights of Indigenous peoples, everyone's rights, because that is what is at stake in this debate, and it is so powerful and important that we gather as we are today to continue to push that message and make sure we're doing everything we can to bring that to the attention of the government. We gather because we want to be safe. Of course we do. We want to be secure. Of course we do. We want to prevent terrorist threats. Of course we do. We want to ensure that individuals who carry out terrorist activities, just like any other criminal activity, are held to account, are brought to justice. We want all of those things. But we are gathering here because we also want, with absolute certainty and strength, human rights to be protected. And that is so much in peril as we move through this debate about Bill C-51. And in particular, we are here because we reject the notion that somehow our security is best protected by giving up a little bit on human rights. That somehow if we want to be safe, we have to accept a world in which we have fewer rights, or where the rights of some people matter less than the rights of others. We reject that notion, friends, because we know that it's exactly the opposite. We will not have a world that is safe, a world that is secure, unless and until we finally embrace human rights like we have never done before. And that means embracing all of our rights, every single person, every community. And haven't we learned that lesson? We've had so many hard, difficult, dark years since September the 11th to learn that lesson. And sometimes it feels like we have been learning the lesson. We've had judicial inquiries here in Canada that have shown us the terrible human rights consequence of national security gone wrong. Meher Arar, Abdullah al-Malki, Ahmed al-Mati, Moyed Nuruddin. We've had the Supreme Court of Canada, no less than the Supreme Court of Canada, underscore that in the Omar Khadr case, in the Immigration Security Certificate ruling back in 2007. They've said human rights are imperiled and cannot be made vulnerable just because of national security. South of the border even, the lesson seems to sometimes be learned. President Obama, although he can't deliver the goods, he's sure that he needs to close down Guantanamo Bay because he knows what's at stake. We had the Senate committee report on torture in the CIA last year, and that revealed so much. There are so many lessons that have been learned. And here we have C-51. Does C-51 give us any inkling that those lessons have been learned, that those lessons matter? Instead, what do we see? We see a piece of legislation that says it is now okay for CSIS operatives to violate the Charter of Rights. It's okay. We see a piece of legislation that says it's okay for federal court judges, the guardians of the Constitution in this country, to authorize those charter violations in secretive hearings. We have a piece of legislation that imperils rights to protest by conflating protest and demonstrations with terrorism and security threats, putting at risk the fundamental rights to protest of Indigenous peoples, of environmentalists, of the labor movement, of all of us. We have a piece of legislation that, in a vague, undefined way, now says it will be criminal to promote terrorism in general. What does that mean, in general? And can you imagine the ways that is going to chill debate and discussion in this country? Because everyone will always be fearful. In general, better not say it. CSIS might be watching. Information sharing expanded beyond belief. Information about all of us shared widely across government with very few safeguards in place, as if we haven't learned any of those lessons from the past, from Meher Arar's case and all of the other cases, about the ways in which reckless, inflammatory, inaccurate information sharing isn't just a bad thing, it causes human rights violations like torture. We need to be worried about that. And this bill has so many bad things in it for immigrants in our country as well, friends. Immigrants who already have a much lower quality of justice when it comes to the national security situation, who don't get the same degree of fairness, who don't get the same disclosure of information being held against them. Well, that's just going to be made all the worse. And all of this against a backdrop where the key shortcoming in Canada's national security system that we've known about for well over a decade now, the fact that we have meaningless review and oversight of the insidious, intricate web of national security activities carried out by our law enforcement agencies, our security agencies, government departments. We've known about that for more than a decade. It's already been a big problem. Now we have a heap more powers for CSIS, new criminal offenses, vast new information sharing, and we do not have a shred of improvement when it comes to review and oversight. So it does not exactly add up to a bill that gives us any confidence that those lessons have been learned, does it, friends? Quite the contrary, we are going in exactly the opposite direction. When we need legislation and policies, and above all, political leadership that puts human rights first, that recognizes our safety and our security, relies upon protecting all of our rights, we are seeing legislation, we are seeing rhetoric, we are seeing political leadership that goes exactly the opposite direction, and we will not stand for that. We cannot stand for that. It has been so powerful, important, and inspiring to see Canadians come together across the country over the last several weeks in gatherings like this, signing petitions, writing letters, and we are making a difference. The opinion polls are shifting. Canadians who at the beginning said, sure, of course, I want legislation that'll prevent terrorism, now recognize, oh, but I do not want that at the cost of my rights, your rights, our rights. I want to prevent terrorism in ways that put human rights first, and we're seeing those numbers shift. We're seeing the government feel the pressure to a certain degree. We've heard references to the fact that we now know that there's going to be a little bit of tweaking that the government's going to come forward with. Well, we know that this isn't about tweaking, friends. We know that this legislation is so flawed, is so problematic. I can tell you that on every single page of Bill C-51, there's something that violates, undermines, attacks, or affronts human rights. We don't solve that by a little tweak here, by removing a word here. So our demand has to be the same, friends. Bill C-51 has to go. That's the bottom line. There's no other way to fix it. Keep speaking out, keep signing petitions, keep showing up. We don't have a lot of time left, but we absolutely have to keep up with this important struggle. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex. That's fantastic. Okay, so we have this play that's going to go on. It is exactly 5 minutes. Don't anybody leave. We have other speakers who are coming with some very interesting points of view on this bill, on the legislation, on our freedoms. I'm just giving these guys some time to set up. They are the Quaker Theatre team, and the play is on C-51. Yeah. It is called Three Traitors.
It's like in the red all the time. The next screen. No, but it's like, I should have put it on 0.
Okay. You know, I hate to disagree with the previous speaker. I don't know where he's getting off with that. We're here